Chairman Frederickson.
Here.
Vice Chairman Shores. Commissioner Cox is excused. Commissioner Goss.
Here.
Commissioner Keith.
Here.
Commissioner Noble.
Here.
Commissioner McCoy.
Here.
Sir, we have quorum.
Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. All right, approval of minutes. Approval of minutes of the January 14th, 2020, and special meeting minutes of February 18th, 2020 for consideration and review and approval.
Move to approve the January 14th minutes. I was not at the February meeting.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need we need a motion for the February 18th? Since Mr. McCoy was it? Can I get a motion for the February 18th?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And I'll make a second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. All right, item number 2, consideration of public comments. Those wishing to address the Planning and Zoning Commission need not request permission in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and a decision at a later time, pursuant to ARS 38-431. Hi. Please state your name.
My name is Wes Maroney, and I was here the night that you approved the sign for the hotel at Stockton Hill and the freeway, and it was supposed to have a LED sign saying, welcome to Kingman, and these are the things that are happening. And I noticed that sign does not have the LED signage to it. And so I wanted to know if they had changed the rules when they approved it, or they just failed to put that sign back up when they brought it from the Indian Casino over in Coconino County.
That would have to be directed to the staff, Richard or Gary, and we could, you want to...
You can discuss it here, right?
He can get with you on that later,
Okay,
Wes.
but, I noticed that and I said, wow, it was supposed to have the sign up. And so
Thank you.
I thought maybe something happened, and I thought I'd check on it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Any further comments from the public? I see none. Thank you. All right. Reports. Presentation of plaques of appreciation for 2 of my favorite special ladies in the audience, Mrs. Lori DeVries and Mrs. Vicki Kress. Presentation of plaques for appreciation of outstanding service and dedication to the Planning and Zoning Commission for Lori DeVries and Vicki Kress. Commissioner DeVries has served January 2017 to December 2019, and Commissioner Kress has served April 2019 to December 2019. This being her second time serving on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll have each one of you at one at a time come up and Lori, would you please? I'd like to present this plaque to a special lady that was on the Planning and Zoning Commission with us and served admirably and went through many trials and tribulations, and we appreciate all her input for making us a better city. All right, Mrs. Vicki Kress. And I'd like to present this to you, another special lady that's been on me since I started here 4 years ago. Been helping me through all the trials and tribulations, and been on many battles on here, and appreciate your input and everything you meant for the city.
I just have to say that it's always been a delight and an honor and a pleasure to serve our community. This is my home and I love it and it's an honor. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for your service. All right, old business. There is no old business to discuss. New business, RZ 20-0001, rezoning case RZ 20-001. A request from Gregory K. Sites applicant and Michael G. Sites property owner to rezone 2 parcels from RR rural residential to C3 commercial service business. The 2 separate properties are: 1 property is 0.97 acres and located generally southwest of the intersection of North Bank Street and East Gordon Drive, and described as a portion of the Lake Mojave County Club Estates, Unit 2, Block A, Lot 11, APN 304-04-016E. Property 2, the property is 1.92 acres and is located southeast of the intersection of North Bank Street and East Gordon Drive, and is described as a portion of Shangri-La Estates, second amended, Block 7, lots 31 and 32, APN 320-02-167. Gary?
Thank you, Commission Chair. Chair, members of the Commission, thank you for having me tonight and to present this case to you. It's, I think, my first case before you, being a new employee here, so I appreciate that. The case is, as the Chair mentioned, rezoning RZ 20-001. It's a rezone of 2 properties, request for a rezone of 2 properties from the rural residential zone, RR, to C3, a commercial zone, the higher intensity commercial zone. And Michael Seitz and his owner, and Greg Seitz is the applicant, and I believe Mr. Gregory Seitz is in the audience tonight. You may be familiar with the property, or at least the intersection. It's North Bank Street and East Gordon Drive. And the properties I've identified here in red. Property number 1 is in the southwest sort of quadrant of that intersection, and property 2 is in the southeast. They're identified. Some of the surrounding uses are to the north of property 1. We have an office area and car lot. Keep in mind, Gordon Drive is the city limits, so to the property to the north is in county jurisdiction. To the south, or I'm sorry, to the west of property 1, we have a church, and to the south of property 1, we have a vet clinic, a single-family home to the left there of where I've identified as an office. And then on property 2, we have a state of Arizona property to the north, also in the county. And then to the south of property 2 is a church. And to the east of property 2 is single-family homes. And so you can probably realize there's quite a mix of land uses in the area. There's some photos from property 1 looking west. That's the church. Looking north, you can see residential to the, I believe that's residential on that corner. I could be wrong. But that's to the north, and I wanted to take that picture to show you that on the property side of this is North Arizona, this is Arizona Street or Drive, and you can see there's partial street improvements on that section there. And that comes into play with the conditions of approval that are proposed. This is also property 1, looking, top photo is looking east. Shows our sign for public notification. and shows the vacant land there. And looking south on the same property, property 1, is the single-family home with that large RV garage there. And on property 2, you can see those single-family homes in the top photo that are far to the east. And then looking south, you can see the church there and also our sign for posting. The zoning in the area is generally RR, rural residential, at least south of Gordon Drive, except for those 2 parcels, the vet clinic and the church. Not the church, yeah, I'm sorry.
Toby Orr.
The what?
Toby Orr Construction.
Oh, okay, thank you, offices, yeah. Construction. Those are both zone C3, commercial, and that is also the designation that the applicant is seeking to be contiguous with those zones. The general plan, the 2030 general plan for the city, has, again, I've identified in that triangular piece and the square piece there, those are the subject properties, property 1 and 2, and both of them have a designation in the general plan as community commercial, which supports a zoning designation of C3. Some aerial, another aerial photo and area utility map, so you can sort of see again the surrounding land uses and the water and sewer lines that are available to the properties, as well as, I want to jump ahead here, but also the transportation network there that's available to both properties. Findings of fact, property 1's about 1 acre, property 2 is about 2 acres. Existing zoning, as we mentioned, is RR. The general plan designates both properties as community commercial. Property 1 was annexed in 1977, and property 2 was annexed in 2000. Both properties are relatively flat, and as I mentioned, utilities are serve the properties, and the transportation. Again, this is important that Drive 1, property 1, has access to the Arizona Street, which I showed in that one photo that I said needs improvements on the road. So that is Arizona Street for property 1. Property 2 has access along North Bank Street. There are some unimproved portions, and I might go back. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there are some unimproved sections here. Basically, the eastern half of property 2 along Gordon needs improvements. We did post the property with the zoning sign, as you saw. We published in the newspaper. We sent surrounding property owners their notice, and so far no comments have been received from the public, and no objections or comments were received from any department or agency, except we did receive 2 proposed conditions, dealing with street improvements and site drainage. With the analysis to rezone a property, the commission must go through the property must be analyzed to see if there's a demonstrated need for the requested zone change, and if it's suitable for proposed zoning district and compatible, not combatable, compatible with surrounding areas, and then finally, is it compliant with the comp plan, or the general plan? First one, demonstrated need. I mentioned in my staff report that there's a mix. This is, of course, a potential zone for intensive commercial uses, but it does provide a well-balanced mix throughout the city to have property zones C1, C2, C3, and since C3 is already rezoned in that area and it's supported by the comp plan, it seemed like a proper fit for that area. Suitability and compatibility with surrounding areas. I mentioned earlier that there's a mix of uses in the area, land uses, and We do also mention in the staff report that the C3 zone has some built-in protections for and to ensure compatibility with surrounding property owners, including how a building, how an operation can be, needs to be fully enclosed or within a building. Also, masonry walls are required, not less than 6 feet, but 8 feet, or between 6 and 8 feet along property lines. And those are some of the examples of how our code, in anticipation of these higher intensity commercial uses, can still be compatible. And finally, there are categories within C3 zoning district that are considered conditional use categories or uses, which you've probably experienced in the past, processing conditional use permits. And so those also offer another layer of protection to the surrounding properties and the vicinity by putting conditions on the property that will help it be compatible. Conformance with the general plan, I mentioned that the map, the 2030 map, it does call for commercial in that area, so it's compatible with the general plan. And then finally, staff recommends that you approve, or you recommend approval from rezoning from RR rural residential
Gary,
to
could you
C3.
scroll to that page so that we can all view
Oh.
that, because we don't have,
Sorry. Get to it.
or some of us are a little bit, or little bit here, yeah,
Right, sure
on
thing.
these iPads.
Well, right there at under staff recommendation is what we propose, and that's that it be approved from RR to C3 commercial service business with the following conditions. One is drainage. These are standard sort of conditions for when a site is developed, so that'll address the drainage on site. And then number 2 is street improvements. They'll be required to improve the sidewalks and street adjacent to the property. With that, I stand for questions.
Do you have any questions?
I do. Do you have a proposed use for this, or are they just wanting to rezone it to sell it, or what?
They may have a use in mind. You can ask the applicant of that, but generally we process it as the array of uses that are allowed in the C3. Because once it's rezoned, you can generally apply for any use within the zone.
I've always been the impression that they had a use in mind, and then they would find a piece of property to fit that use.
Yeah, you're correct. Most people will, if they're changing a zoning, have a use in mind. They want to do business there. But the one thing staff has to be careful of is, what they say they're going to do, and then plans fall through, and in 4 years it's sold as C3. There's still that wide open uses within C3 category. So staff, you have to be careful with that.
And doesn't the commission have to be careful with that, in that it's open-ended to the
Yes.
neighborhood, that they have no clue what somebody wants to put there, and then you
Right.
just arbitrarily rezone it as a higher use?
Right. Again, there could be a use in mind, but it wouldn't behoove us to condition, or you to condition a property that if we rezone it to this, it has to be this land use, because that then kind of pigeonholes them into, if they want to sell it in 4 years, they got to come back to rezone it again. Whereas we've set up originally zoning districts to have all the uses in there and the protections that are allowed to that zone for the surrounding property owners.
Okay,
That's the best explanation I have.
I want to say, Gary,
Yes,
you did a great job. I mean,
thank you.
I just want to say it's very clear, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Gary? No. All right, Gary, thank you.
Okay.
I'll open this up to the general public. Any comments or questions from the general public? Please state your name.
Hello, Commissioners. Wes Maroney. That area, I just passed through there a couple hours ago myself, and I don't think anyone would want to build a home in that particular area. And the commercial use of it, the city would get some taxes, you know, and use out of it, sales tax, property tax, though the property tax doesn't really come to us. I think it's a good idea to take it from rural residential and make it commercial. Now, on the and with that, I think you should ask the people what kind of businesses are they thinking that might go into that area. A gas station, another restaurant, marijuana dispensary. You know, these are things that you want to know. The high school is just a few 100 feet away from it, so it would behoove us not to put in something that would draw the kids over there and cause more safety questions as you know, as them trying to get over there to get something and stuff like that. So I think it's a good idea, but with some answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? I see none. Closed. All right, open it up for comment, discussion.
I guess I'll start. I went over to the property too and drove around it, and the sign is down. We only get these on Thursday, so when I went to the property, there was no signs up. They were laying down with dirt on them. So I don't know when those signs go up, but they weren't there. The one on Bank and Gordon wasn't up. So I see the picture, it was put up, but I think they need to hit them down a little farther or something. But anyways, because I couldn't see a sign at all, I actually had to look at the property to find that. Also, while I do appreciate the applicant's desire to expand their portfolio to C3, I think there's a lot of businesses that fall under that I don't see will look beneficial to the surrounding businesses. The ones that are C3 are already up. That's Casey or whatever. There's Toby Orr's building. It's beautiful. The animal hospital looks great. There could have been horrible stuff there, but it looks great. What falls under the C3 is the my concern is the vehicle storage and towing. Now, the medicinal purpose buildings that could go up there, the schools are more or less than 2,300 feet away from what, so it can't go there. So that's good part right there. But we got new construction going there, new homes going there, and the potential of a storage towing yard. I don't think that's going to make that place look beautiful. And there's a lot of beautiful homes, you know, with Wallach Ranch and everything going up on that street. And there is currently another building going up, a retail building going up, I think, from what I can see. So my concern is what could be there. I see a C2 would be could benefit, but I think a C3, you can go 50 feet high, and you got a church right next to it, and you got residential behind it, and I don't see how that's going to, I may be in the general plan, but I don't see how that is going to benefit the public, and that's my take on it.
Chairman, does a storage facility, wouldn't that require a CUP?
No.
No?
With a CUP, you can do a swap meet, according to the C3. And there's a lot of stuff that falls in the CUP applications that you can apply. But as far as the C3, what they can automatically do is not going to be pretty. Or it could possibly not be pretty. So that's my concern, that's all.
And I'll expand on that a little bit. I'm not a fan of rezoning a piece of property for profit. That's really not what this commission's for. It seems to me that if they came with a use in mind, then I may be more open to consider it. But not knowing what the proposal is, I'm not willing to support it.
I think it generally conforms to the area personally. I mean, we've got two C3 properties. It's on Bank Street and Gordon, which are arterial streets.
But it's what could go there that concerns me.
And the C3 that is there is already improved.
Is the applicant here and like to expand?
Yes.
Would you mind coming up and stating your name? And maybe you could help answer some questions for us.
I'll do my best, for sure.
Come on up and
Thank you.
state your
Thank
name,
you.
please.
My name is Greg Seitz. I am the property manager, if you would, son of Michael Seitz, the property owner, and longtime resident of Kingman, and work with the community quite a bit to improve our community, work with our police officers, Rusty Cooper, and the fire department to help get people off the streets and so on and so forth. So we are here to hopefully try to improve our community and comply with what's there. Our first thought, was working with Dave Wolf from the COC, and what we see as a need based on talking with the city council, the planning commission, is housing. Initially, there's a need for retirees, and one of the first things that we thought of, but the market is changing, was building affordable housing for retirees, not Section 8 per se, but the kind of programs that Dave Wolf and the COC support. The maximum amount that we're allowed to have on the triangle corner would be 26 units. And I actually talked to Brian Van Dyke, which is the pastor, good friend of mine. Many of the pastors are good friends of mine. And I said, hey, this is what we're kind of thinking. We don't know, because the market's changing, down drop, tons today. It's kind of unpredictable time. But we don't have a desire to develop anything there that wouldn't be conforming. I mean, it's easy for me to say now, but we don't know exactly what we're going to do, but we're kind of thinking residential, and that gives us the opportunity for higher density. Residential is kind of our desire, but we would like to build something that conforms to the area, that will look good. There's also a Bank Street overlay. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's certain requirements that we have to comply with that actually trump the. It's interesting how the CCs and Rs here, the Shangri-La Estates and the Mojave Estates, there's another name for it, but there's certain CCs and Rs that are in place that we have to comply with that kind of protect the constituents as well and the surrounding properties. So our desire is not to build anything that's going to be non-conforming or to put, a tow yard there that's going to basically be a big black eye. Our desire is to put something that we believe will benefit the community as well as the surrounding areas. I'm also good friends with, or have friends that go. I used to know Pastor Ken at Grace Lutheran and also Journey Church. I work with those guys. But so all those churches there, it's an opportunity if we do build residential for them to, possibly have new patrons that are going to attend and a nice community there. So that's kind of our initial desire. We drew up some preliminary plans, but, we weren't quite sure what we wanted to do, and we're still not quite sure. So what our intention was get the highest zoning that we can, of course, so that we have the greatest opportunity for development, whatever would be best at the time, according to what the economy is doing. So
I think the challenge is as we go see, if you get a rezone to C3, it's open to whatever. We know I understand your intentions, but I appreciate the intentions, but we don't know that. You could sell it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we have nothing.
Sure.
And then we could have this big storage rec yard or whatever it is. So
I
I
think
understand and we don't have a copy of the CCNRs, do we?
Because I don't think the Bank Street overlay will even allow that, but I may be wrong, and I understand where you're coming from. So you're absolutely right.
So you can't make a decision based on hoping, you know what I mean? It's difficult to make a decision
Sure.
without not having all the information in front of you. But I appreciate the intentions.
Sure.
The thoughts of residential and senior housing, that sounds good.
Sure.
Any other questions of the applicant? I see none.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
It's almost something on the table.
Any further discussion, or want to make a motion?
I'm not really good at this after 2.5 years, but I'm saying we need more information. How do you can you table, make a motion to get more information about what is allowed? What are we looking at? Like, if without any more information, then I'd make a motion to not approve
To
the.
table it, or?
So do you want to make the motion to deny it, or do you want
I would
to try
like
to
to-
table
I would
it
like to-
until we get the CCNRs?
I would like to
and-
make a motion that we table it until we get more information, such as the CCNRs overlay that he's talking about, and any pertinent information to making this decision.
I would second that.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, motion carries. Thank you. All righty, announcements by commission members. Limited to announcements, availability, or attendance at conferences and seminars, requests for agenda items for future meetings, and requests for reports from staff. No discussion on any of these items. Anybody have any? Well, I have two. Gary or Richard? I know, and forgive me, but I don't remember the firm that's handling our zoning and update, but I think we need to get some kind of guidance for what kind of businesses we would like to see in the downtown district. And if we could come back with some information, maybe what other cities do when they're historical, what's allowed and whatnot. I think we need to address that. And then my second comment is, being this is ladies' night, we have a very special lady that's come to my attention, that's on our commission, that's served this community up and far and beyond. I think anybody could hope and pray for. And she was honored for Woman Making History in Kingman at the Mojave Museum of History on Beale Street on Sunday, March 1st. And she got the award in, I may not pronounce this properly, philanthropy. Sharman Keith is a resident of Kingman for 18 years and a realtor, is being honored for philanthropy. Keith donates generously and anonymously to a multitude of ministries and nonprofit organizations that help people in Kingman. She has volunteered her time holding Bible studies for female inmates in the Mojave County Adult Detention Facility. Then she picks them up and helps them get back on their feet upon release. And I would like to put out a big shout out and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Keith. Thank you very much. And now I need a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? I see none. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Got you blindsided.